You got to get comfortable, kiddo. On my left. Sorry. Hey, man. Have a nice day. Thank you. That's right.
So Liz, it is 8 o'clock, but we're going to wait just a minute just so that people can log on and get situated and find the video.
Okay. So when you say find the video, I'm playing that last, Karen, just so you know.
No, the
Like
video of our broadcast.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
No problem.
How many people are in this today? I never asked you that.
It's the whole district, so it's between 600 and 700.
Why did I just ask that question?
You asked before and I purposefully didn't answer.
Ask that question. I need to look my timer up. Hi, everybody. Thank you. My dog is here with me for the minute today. This is Lucy. Hi, everybody.
Oh,
I had to bring her in today, but that's my dog, Lucy. She helps me stay calm. Put over here, honey.
okay. We're still just going to wait another minute or two. People are figuring out the right link and we'll be starting in a moment. Thanks, everyone.
I feel their pain. I am not technology savvy, so I would be doing the same thing.
see. All right, so some people I know are still figuring it out, Liz, but I think we should get started just in the
Critical
interest
mass.
of time. Yeah, it's critical mass. I'm getting the updates. So I'm going to say good morning to everyone. Nice to be back. And of course, I think Liz needs no introduction, but Liz Doncaster, our Director of Student Services, will be doing a presentation this morning. I'm going to not be on camera, so goodbye. But I am going to help out technology-wise.
She is, because I am challenged in that area, as many of us have had to learn. So can I start, Karen?
Give me just 1 second, Liz.
I can't
And I
read all
think-
that. I'm gonna get nervous.
Okay. And you are on.
Great. Good morning, Somerville Public Schools. My name is Liz Doncaster, and I am the Director of Student Services. And I'm here today to share with you, spend time with you for the next 45 minutes, sharing what my department does as it relates directly to your work, whether you are a teacher, a support person in the building admin. I just want to take a minute to first say, welcome back to this new year. I know it's not a year that is normal by any means, and that all the work that you've been doing over the past 10, 11 days with professional development and planning and your schedules, it's just really kind of brought back the energy that we didn't have over the summer and when we kind of bugged out last March. And I'm just, I've been really, just really overwhelmed by what I see you folks doing on a collaborative level from, you know, within your building, across the district. And I know it's hard to juggle your own feelings about what's gone on for the past 6 months. And now we have to, now today is about sort of focusing on the students and what the students need to process their social, emotional, mental health feelings about what has gone on in the past 6 months. So here's today's agenda. I'm going to change slides, Karen. So this is the agenda that I'm going to take you through today. These are probably should be very familiar subjects to you, but I'm going to go ahead and just go over all of them because some of them have changed because of remote learning. So here is my mighty, mighty, small but mighty department. We are the jack of all trades. We are all over the district. I am the director. Just a little background about myself. I started out as an early childhood preschool teacher at the Kennedy, and then we switched over to the Capilano. I was there for 12 years. So when you're an early childhood educator, you really do focus on the whole child and creating a human and teaching a human to be a human, teaching a little child to be a student, to be part of the classroom community, to be part of the building community, to be able to handle their feelings appropriately. And I still do that work today. We mostly working with students that handle their emotions inappropriately. But so I've sort of been doing this whole work my whole career, so it is my passion. I went on to become a director of summer school and then the redirect at the Kennedy for a couple of years. And now I've been in this department. This is my 4th year up here in this department, 2 years as the director, and now my 2 years as the assistant director, and now I'm in my 2nd year as the director. We also have Christine Campbell, who is a licensed adjustment counselor. She started out as a supervisor of attendance for us, but did such great work, quickly moved up to our district crisis case coordinator. That is, she comes in when you have tier 3 interventions and maybe you've had to call outside services, DCF, the best team, and she's there to coordinate all those and help communicate with all those outside services to help support the student, not only during the crisis, but as we follow through the crisis and get the student back to their baseline. She also is the 504 accommodation plan coordinator for the district. So hopefully you will be sending her copies of your new amended 504 plans, which I will get into talking about in a minute. We also have Jen LaGreca and Matt O'Donnell, been around the district for a long time. They are our supervisors of attendance. I like to basically look at them as community outreach folks because they're all over the districts and, you know, they do whatever it takes to support students. Of course, their main job is attendance, so they'll be at your SST meetings, and I'll talk about those in a few minutes. They'll be at your SST meetings. They're there to collaborate with your redirects and your deans of students around attendance contracts, talking to parents, doing home visits. They're also involved now in home engagement visits. And we will just do anything we need to do. If we need to deliver food to a family or a student, we need to deliver anything that has to do with their 504 accommodations, technology change outs if there's a repair. We are here to do everything. We are across the district and ready to help you and help support students. And I've listed their schools here, so these are, you will see them in your SST meetings. We also have Laura Davis. She's been with us. She's a contracted personnel. She's been with us for about 4 years now. She's really, I mean, she has a long title after her name. I didn't bother to put all those letters, but she has done really good work speaking with teachers and building admin around de-escalation, behavior management, classroom management. And she's really done a great job of switching over to the remote model and helping teachers with the remote model of classroom management, managing behaviors, sort of red flag, looking for red flags. She is something we call upon as an intervention through the SST meeting. So if you believe you could use her help as a teacher, please ask for her email address. She's happy to collaborate with you. And she also collaborates with the building admin around interventions at the SST level. I'm going to go to the next slide, Karen. So, student support teams. First of all, the Student Services Department is focused on providing continuous support to all students in the areas of safety, health, and behavior management. And how we do that is we get referrals as we communicate through our partnerships with students, parents, teachers, and school administrators. And we use the multi-tiered system of student support, so the MTSS model. You'll be talking about this with as you debrief with your building-based admin this afternoon after the both of these professional developments this morning. So you've seen this triangle before. One side is academic, one side is social emotional, but we do believe as a district that they're always intertwined. You know, if a child isn't doing well in class, there's probably a social emotional reason why they are not doing that. So they're very much interconnected, although I generally focus on the student support teams, which is the behavior side. And I like this model that I'm showing you on the slide because I love the big green section. So that is tier 1 interventions. So as a district, I hope, and as a building-based PD, we hope we've given you many, many ways to intervene at the tier 1 level, which will be your remote classrooms to intervene with behaviors. And we're always trying to come up with new tools to put in your tool chest so that you can intervene when you see a student moving off their baseline within the remote learning platform. Student support teams meet weekly. They are comprised of the following building staff. You've got the principal, the assistant principal, department head, counselor, redirect, deans of students, nurse, crisis case manager from my office, supervisor attendant from my office, and then your embedded therapist. We have added throughout the years outside therapy to help us support students from Riverside and Home for Little Wanderers. And I just want to give a shout out to the fact that this summer, the Home for Little Wanderers, Riverside, and our own counselors, redirects, and deans of students worked throughout the summer during this very unique summer and time to consistently work with students and parents to support their social emotional health and prepare them to get started in the new year. SST teams have already started to meet because we're worried about those students that weren't actually connecting maybe in remote learning at the end of the school year. And so they're already on our radar to be supported as they transition into the new year. Primarily, there's 3 reasons why a student will be referred to the SST meeting. It's attendance, and now I've added attendance and engagement because we have engagement trackers and we want to know that they're doing their asynchronous work and logging in. So that's part of the what we're tracking now in addition to attendance. There's social emotional learning and behavior management, and students that are experiencing specific crisis. So if you find out a student is something has gone on in the family, a death or fire, or they've suddenly become homeless because of their situation, you would immediately refer them to the SST team so that we as a school community can support that student and their family through this crisis. I want to stop here for a moment and really, and I know you've heard it before, and you know, the building relationships, but I can't say enough about this. We teachers, support systems, building admin need to get to know your students, create relationships with your student. Every student has a very unique background and a very unique story. And you need to get to know who they are and where they're coming in. And we call that the baseline. You need to get to know the student's baseline. Now, we know from last year that the baselines were here, and now with COVID and all the institutional racism, you know, that we have seen in the last 6 months, now their baseline is sort of up here, a little more anxious, a little more maybe not handling their feelings well. So they're coming in already at a heightened sense of emotion. So you really need to get to know your students so that you can understand their baseline. So when they start to move off their baseline and show you what we call red flags, something that's not normal, something that you haven't seen before, you can zero in on that and use and start to use interventions. An example of that in remote might be you have a student who has been showing up every day, engaged every day, and then suddenly for a couple of days, they don't want their face on the video. They're not really engaging, they're not really raising their hands so that you can unmute them and they can speak. Right there, I would say to myself, they're off their baseline. That's a red flag. And I would first try and reach out to that student on their own, maybe talk to the parent. If I have to involve the counselor, involve the counselor. If we find out it's a bigger bit of a problem, then there's where you refer them to the student support team. Every building has a different way of referrals. So that's the logistics of that you'll learn this afternoon in your meetings, like how the actual referral happens. Some people do it online, some people just email, some building wants you to email. Whatever your building referral process is to SST, you'll learn that this afternoon. So if you have any questions about that, this afternoon is your time. We are going to go over the MTSS process. I'm going to switch now to the next slide, which is attendance. Attendance during remote learning has been a big topic. We actually kind of didn't really think about it until the last couple of weeks because you're so focused on your schedules and getting your classrooms right and learning all this technology. But we've really this week hunkered down and looked at the DESE recommendations. Love those DESE recommendations about attendance during remote learning. So some things have stayed the same and some have changed. The biggest change is that you are going to have to you're going to have to get on Aspen, and you are going to have to click on something for every student, where in the past you could just skip the present and go right to the absent. Now you're going to have to put a V, you're going to have to click on V for virtually present and VA for virtually absent. The sick line policy and procedure is the same. If a parent does not feel their child is well enough to join you on your remote learning platforms, they have to call the sick line specific to the school and give the information so that the secretary can put that into Aspen. Teachers will take daily AM attendance and input that into Aspen. So then where the discrepancy is when we haven't heard from a parent and the student isn't in class, we have what we call, it produces a call list, and that's where your redirect and your deans of students will start calling home, because even though we're not in the brick and mortar building, it is still our responsibility to know where the students are during the school day and to make sure that they're safe. So we start calling early in the morning if a student is absent and we haven't heard from the parent. I will say we have taken out the robocalls. We're no longer putting robocalls to families. Not this year. Don't want to add another layer of another robocall coming into the house. So after you take attendance, your AM attendance, you will continue to sort of be aware of who's attending your following synchronous blocks, your class blocks, your whatever you call them, your blocks, your subject matter classes. You need to keep an eye on if the students are continuing to show up. If they are not continuing to show up, however your building decides to report that to your deans of students or your redirect, you're going to sort of like while you're on synchronous, let the deans of student know that, you know, so-and-so showed up for, John showed up for morning meeting and math block, but now he's not here for ELA. So, you know, and especially in the beginning of the year, we're going to really make those phone calls and be very conscious of that so that students get the idea that that attendance is mandatory. We expect you to be there. And if you're not there, you're going to get a phone call and we're going to track you down. So, and then if a student continues to be chronically absent, they will be referred to SST. Also, if a student is absent, sick for medical reasons for more than 3 days consecutive, we will expect a doctor's note to be, you know, emailed to us by the parent. Next slide. So in the high school, the attendance is going to stay the same. They take attendance in the morning at period 1, and they continue to take attendance at the beginning of each block thereafter, very similar to what they need to do now. During asynchronous learning, you all are going to have to sort of keep track of the students are submitting their assignments. They're, you know, if we're doing that independent reading in the afternoon, you have questions, they need to answer those questions. Are they logging on to their learning platforms? Are they attending the virtual check-ins? So they're synchronous because you can see them, and then as asynchronous, you're going to have to check on that work as well to make sure they're engaging. I want to take a note here. We've been talking with principals, and the principals are now working with John Breslin, the tech director, to work in the Aspen system, because like I said, the high school is sort of already set for attendance and tracking, but the K-8s are not. So we are working together to change that Aspen system to make it easier for you as a teacher to take that morning attendance and then track that student through the blocks in the throughout the rest of the day. We are not going to do this right away. We're going to phase into it sometime in October, and of course, we would not do it without the educators being trained. So if you have any questions about attendance, you have that space this afternoon to speak with your building admin. I'm going to move on now to 504 accommodation plans. If you have not worked with these before, it's qualified students who have a physical or mental impairment that limits one or more major life activities. We have over 200 of these in the district. They are coordinated by your counselors. We have to give free and appropriate public education to our students. So 504s are very much in play. The physical and mental impairments that they have, DESE, the law has increased this subject matter of what is a physical or mental impairment. And I think I've found them and all listed them here. And then that it infringes on a major life activity, that has really increased over the past few years. They've added a lot to it about digestive and respiratory and circulatory. They really have added a lot more to the major life activities that are eligible for a 504. 504 plans during remote learning. What is that going to look like to you? So your counselors are going to, they've been tasked with looking at every 504 plan we have and chatting with teachers and parents about it. We want to make sure that we can, during remote, implement those accommodations, because as a teacher, you are legally obliged to follow a 504 plan. So you're the one it falls to. So we want to make sure that those 504 plans and the accommodations can be implemented. If they cannot be implemented because of the physicality of remote learning, we are going to amend that specific accommodation, and we are going to outreach to parents. If we think coaching the parent might help that accommodation happen at home, we will have that conversation with the parent. But so as a teacher, you are to look at your 504 plans, consult with your counselor. The counselor, I'm going to go to the next slide. Counselor is going to talk with parents, but also your regular 504 meetings, maybe some that you fell behind in March. Those meetings are going to continue to happen. The 1 year, the 3 year, they're going to continue to happen virtually. and your counselor will plan those for you. Also, we may find that families are interested in getting their child a remote learning 504, a 504 during remote learning because their child is having specific challenges. We are open to that. We just need to have a 504 determination meeting, and if you are spoken to about this by a parent, I want you to involve your counselor, and they'll go ahead with the process of gathering information and seeing if 504 is the right direction for interventions for that student. Okay, next slide. So this is basically what we need you to do as counselors is amend those 504s, amend them in Aspen, make sure that you send a copy to the parent or guardian, make sure you consult and send a copy to the teacher, and make sure you send a copy to Christine Campbell, who's the 504 coordinator up in my department. If you have any more questions about 504s, I would go to your counselor in the building because they are the coordinators of that. I'm just checking my time. I want to make sure that I'm doing well. Okay, next subject, bullying and prevention, bullying, cyberbullying, retaliation, an overview during remote. We know this still happens. I've been dealing with cyberbullying the whole entire summer. So it is very much happening. We have a zero tolerance for it in this district. It is the repeated overpowering of another person. It's repetitive. It can be done. It causes physical, emotional harm. It gives the target has reasonable fear. I'm just going through this slide. Creates a hostile environment, infringes on your rights, and disrupts the educational process. I think we all understand what bullying is. I think you touch base on this in the human resources database. You're also going to be going over this because it's mandatory. We still are taking this serious, especially if you are a protected class, because they're more vulnerable to bullying. And so when a bullying case comes up, we have to make sure that no civil rights violations have happened. We take that very seriously. Cyberbullying, it's out there, it's everywhere. I know you know it because you've dealt with it. What I will say about this is, as a teacher or as a support person, and whenever you're in a remote learning environment, is that if there's anything that's said or any type of evidence you can capture, please do capture it, or ask the student not to erase it off their phone if they're talking about pictures being sent to them. We like to keep those things as evidence. Also, just know that if we do have reason to go through a phone, the principal is the only one in the building that is allowed. That would be a little difficult during remote. But if cyberbullying is happening, you would then consult with your building admin, your counselor, and try and get any evidence. If you can take a screenshot of what the child said in chat or something like that. So please be aware of that and try and do that for us. I love this next slide because I like the idea of around remote learning and cyberbullying and bullying. Like, we try to be proactive. So I like the idea of maybe you chatting with your students about digital citizenship. And I got this idea from the Kennedy School. And I love every phrase here it really makes sense to maybe go over something like this with your students. I will keep myself safe on the internet. I will tell an adult if an online conversation makes me feel uncomfortable. I'll keep my information private and secure. That includes pictures of myself. You don't send pictures of yourself to anyone. I will be positive contributing member while I'm on the remote classroom. I will communicate respectfully, treat classmates and teachers with respect, give credit to others for their work. Like, this is the Kennedy's work and I'm giving them credit. Shout out to Kennedy. And my work will always be my own. And that's a big one, because I see a lot of, if you're home and you're working remotely and your parent happens to be there and your sister or brother happens to be there, we really have to teach these students that they really need to learn these skills on their own and not get coached by whomever's around them at home. And of course, we will follow classroom behavior expectations, which, as teachers, that should be part of your phase in, creating remote classroom behavior expectations together as a community as you build your community in your classroom, we hope that you are also building in these behavior expectations, digital citizenship, that bullying is not, bullying and cyberbullying are not tolerated in our classroom community. Back to bullying, we do, you can report bullying in any matter of platforms. This has been out there for a long time. Parents or guardians have many ways: email, phone call. We have a system with different languages on the phone, through the phone, that they can report bullying. There is an investigation process when somebody comes forth and says, my child's being bullied, or I'm being bullied, or I've witnessed bullying. We get permission from the parents to talk to the aggressor, the target, the witnesses. We gather all the information. We come up with a disposition. And if it is bullying, there's whole nother path. The victim would have a safety plan. And what would that look like in the remote learning world? It might be that that aggressor gets removed and gets put in another cohort. We make sure they don't cross paths, or we do mediation, which is something we always try first. We have a great mediation department. They're housed in the high school, but mediators are assigned to all our K-8 schools. We do bring in the mediators. They're wonderful, and they have helped us through these sort of lower level bullying cases, or lower level cases that you think are show up as bullying that are really conflict. But we are serious about our bullying investigation, and and then the aggressor would get a behavior plan and maybe therapy, because I always like to say a bully doesn't get up every day and just become a bully. He just automatically is a bully. They become a bully for reasons, and so we want to support them through why it is they feel to need to overpower another child. What is the core reason why that is happening, emotional, mental reason why that is happening? We need to get to that so that that student doesn't continue to do that throughout the years. Next slide. This is our anonymous bullying reporting system. You've seen these posters all over school. Hopefully now, since we're not in school, you'll see them on my website, maybe your counselor's website, and maybe your school's website. If you have any questions about bullying, cyberbullying, or retaliations, again, please go ahead and ask those questions today at your debrief meeting. I just want to see where I am with time. I'm going to quickly go over 504. I'm sorry, 51A, mandatory reporting. This is something you already will touch base with Human Resources Database, but you are all mandated reporters. And if you suspect a child who's in physical, emotional danger, or being sexually abused or neglected, and that their basic needs are not being met, you are required to file a 51A with DCF. But we ask you as a best practice to have a conversation with building admin. Let them know this is what you've been seeing. Liz has kind of been showing up lately on remote. She's got dark circles under her eyes. She's not making. She's introverted. She's been wearing the same clothes. I think there's something going on there. Or I think I might have seen a bruise on her arm when she raised her hand that I didn't see the other day. And you'll have a discussion with your building admin. Should you file or not file? If your building admin disagrees with you and you still feel the need to file, you have every right to file because you are a mandated reporter. Then you have the processes. You have to orally call DCF, the Cambridge Somerville office, within 24 hours. You have to submit the written within 48 hours. Now it's very easy. You can do it online. It's a form you do online and you submit it online. You will need to print a copy or email a copy to your building admin and then my department, Christine Campbell, because we keep track of all the 51As. And also your principal will let me know that, or whomever will let me know personally that day that we're filing 51A and for what reason, because I want to know how are we going to support the student and this family. That student is automatically referred to the SST team so that we can support that student. And then we're really connected with DCF. Christine and I, we know the DCF intake managers. So if you want to know if the case was opened or not opened, we just can call right in and find out right away. If it's a higher level case around sexual abuse, DCF notifies the district attorney's office and involves the police if they have to. So that automatically happens. I will say one thing about that. If a child starts to disclose to you they've been physically harmed in a sexual way, please refer right to your counselor, refer that student, and try not to ask any more questions. We don't want that child to have to retell that story too many times and relive the trauma over and over. So I would go ahead and refer that to building admin and your counselor, and they know how to take it from there. Again, if you have any questions about being a mandated reporter, 51A, you can chat about it this afternoon with your building admins. And the last thing I want to talk about is Chapter 222, an overview. This is something we've been talking about, discipline and suspensions. Like I said earlier, you know, students have been through a lot. They're coming in at a higher level of anxiety, so they're probably not going to handle themselves well when they're feeling pressure. They might, you know, where they might have been able to handle their anger and their frustration and their disappointment and their confusion of all these sites and everything they're supposed to do before, there might be a little bit more snapping. They might actually lash out in a way that they normally would not. So, you know, we know there's going to be behavior issues and there's going to be major behavior infractions, but we've really talked about this with the principals, that we are going to be looking at each infraction with an equitable, empathetic, trauma-sensitive lens. You know, we're gonna go by a case-by-case situation. So we're going to consider the student's background and what they're going through and what they've been through before we do any type of a suspension, long-term or short-term. We're going to make sure that we involve the parents. We're going to make sure that we are fair and we are effective in our discipline process. We're also going to consider proactive ways to deal with the problem. Maybe we can mediate it. Maybe it can be a therapy. Maybe just a good parent meeting will help the child through. But if it is egregious enough to suspend, we will do that. We'll let the child know what we are doing before we go ahead and suspend. We will also make every effort to involve the parent in that decision, that we've made that decision. What that will look like in remote learning is that student will not be allowed to be in synchronous. They will, just like in the brick and mortar, they're removed from the building and they're not allowed to be involved in anything that has to do with school, even after school, sports. The same thing will happen. They'll be removed from the synchronous. And how your buildings handle that might be different. We might just continue to let them do the asynchronous, and maybe they'll work with the redirect one-to-one. However your building decides to do that discipline, handle suspensions, they'll have it done in their own way. As far as discipline and how when something's going wrong with, or you're having a challenge, I should say, having a behavior challenge in your remote world, each building will have its own way to refer that student to the redirect and the deans of students, and you'll learn that this afternoon in your breakout sessions. So what we really want to make sure is that a suspension for under 10 days, the student has the right to make up the work. There is there's an appeal process. This is, I legally have to show you, there's definitely an appeal process. They can, if the parent does not agree with what has happened, they can appeal to the superintendent, and in a very timely manner. You see here, she must respond and they must have a meeting. So this is what I was talking about a little earlier. So if you are suspended for 10 or less days, you need to have the opportunity to have that student make up the work. If it's an over 10-day suspension, we will be supporting that student, giving them access to the curriculum online in an asynchronous way. And we always, just a note here to special education, we work very closely with special education especially around crisis cases, bullying, and suspensions, to make sure it's not a manifestation of their disability. Those things are always, I always collaborate with the director, Christine Travisoni, about those students to make sure that we understand their disability and how it would affect certain situations. And so we just have a really strong collaboration. I am, wow, right on time. So I just want to say a few things since we've come to the end of my program, and I do want to show you a video before you go to break and you go to the next trauma sensitive classroom training with Riverside. That's going to be a very interactive training where you get to ask questions. So I just want to say that as far as the social emotional is concerned in your SEL, I know you have teams in your buildings that have been working to really have a comprehensive social emotional plan, supplementing our district-wide or K-8 second step. I thank you for all your efforts in that area. If you have not collaborated with a team in the building around extra supplemental lessons specific to institutional racism or COVID, there's plenty of free lessons out there online. We want to make sure that you take the time in the first few days, the first couple of weeks, to let the students to understand they're coming in at a higher trauma level, that they're going to need time to process. You know, I know you're nervous about Friday. Here's, 2 days away from the start of school. I think we all need to just take a deep breath and just know that students need our patience. We need to be flexible. We need to be equitable. We need to understand that each student has their own story, and it's our job to get to know them and to create a community, a safe and inviting community where they know that we believe in them, we want them there, and we are going to do the best we can for them. And I also want you to be able to take care of yourself in all of this, because like I said, some of us have been touched more personally by this whole experience, and so we bring our own emotions to the table. So, and I just need you to take care of you. I want you to make sure you take care of yourself and you find your self-care outlets. So finally, I'm going to leave you with this video that speaks to knowing the baseline of your student. It's called The Calling. If you've seen it before, I think it's worth seeing again, because it's really speaking from a father's perspective on how the school system really saw red flags in their daughter and helped their daughter out. I'm not really tech savvy, so I apologize if it takes me a few minutes to get this going. I don't know if Karen's going to do that for me. Let me know, Karen, and then I'd like you to watch this video as we move to the break. Go get yourself, refill your coffee, have a nice break, and then we will see you back here at 9 o'clock for the trauma sensitive training. Karen, you want me to do this, or you're going to do this?
I'll take care of it, Liz. And just to be clear, the trauma sensitive training is a different link, and it's on the schedule this morning. I just want to make sure that everyone's clear on that. So just click on the link that's in the schedule that I sent. But I will go ahead and show that video now. Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for your time. My department is always here for you. We will always, no task is too small or too big. We always follow through. We do whatever it takes for student support, and please contact us if you need us. Enjoy the video.
It's been said that in a completely rational society, the best of us would be teachers, and the rest of us would have to settle for something less, because passing civilization along from one generation to the next ought to be the highest honor and the highest responsibility any one of us can have. I speak in school communities all over the country, and many times people will ask, who's the most important group you speak to? Is it high school students, elementary students, middle school students? And all of those students are important, but you can make a very strong argument that the most important group that I speak to isn't students at all. It's teachers. I've met in my time thousands of teachers, classroom teachers, counselors, office administrators, FIED teachers, librarians, anybody who works in a school that has an ability to impact kids, in my mind, is a teacher. And what I've learned is that you didn't get there by accident. That you felt the special tug on your heart, and that tug said to you at some point, you are uniquely designed to impact, influence, and inspire a young person's heart, soul, and mind. And you said yes to that calling. So often teachers get bogged down in the day-to-day, and what they got into the work for ends up not being the work that they actually do, and they get burnt and they get drained and they're ready to quit. I've seen teachers as early as 6 months ready to throw in the white flag and say it's all over. They don't feel like their work matters, but it does, and I can say it firsthand. Our family actually got an email from a school nurse, a teacher in her own right, about 3 years ago, and the email read something along the lines of, I don't know how to quite say this, but your daughter, who was in 3rd grade at the time, is coming in and seeing me quite a bit, and there's some very strong red flags that I have as a nurse that she's struggling with some sort of anxiety or maybe even childhood depression. The nurse was absolutely right. And the last 3 years, my wife and I and my daughter have been in and out of counseling and therapy and psychiatrists, questioning medicine in 4th grade. Sophia missed 25 days of school because of this stuff. There were days where she couldn't even get out of bed. And I honestly don't share that to make you sad or to make you depressed, because the truth is so many of you have had harder stories or more difficult things in your life than that. I share that with you because you need to understand that only 1 year later in 5th grade, Sophia missed 0 days of school, and it wasn't because of a doctor, and it wasn't because of myself or medication. It was because of her 5th grade teacher, Miss Patty. Miss Patty single-handedly changed the game for Sophia and our entire family. And what I need you to hear is that you are the Miss Patties for so many of the students that walk into your classroom, and sometimes you know the ones you're impacting and sometimes you don't. But as a parent and as somebody who just deeply cares about young people, I need you to remind yourself that the work you do matters. The ripple effect that you have in the lives of these kiddos goes further than your eyes will ever see. So, if nothing else, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for stepping up and saying yes to that tug that you got on your heart so many years ago. Thank you for saying yes to the highest honor and the highest responsibility any one of us could have. Thank you for passing civilization forward. You have the most important job on this planet, and we need you today more than ever.